Next up, we're going to talk about Power BI report formatting options. Now, this is all about customizing the look and feel of your visuals. The fact is, there are a ton of different formatting options, and they vary pretty drastically between chart types. So rather than show you every single option for every chart type, which wouldn't be a very effective use of time, I'm going to demonstrate what some of these sets of formatting options look like for different types of charts. And then we're going to go into Power BI and practice customizing the format for our stacked bar chart. So here we have three very different types of visuals. We've got a combo chart on the left, which is a line and column. We've got a matrix visual in the center and a donut chart on the right. Now, looking at formatting options for the line and column combo chart, you've got a number of different categories there: general, legend formatting, X and Y axis, data colors and labels, shapes, plot area, title background, lock aspect, and border. And within each of those, you have additional options. So just within the X-axis formatting options, for instance, you can change the type, the scale type, you can fix a starting or ending value, update the color, text size, font, and display mode. So these menus are packed with options, and those options, like everything else, dynamically update based on what you're working with. Now for the matrix view, you'll see a slightly different set of options here. Now you've got matrix style options, grid options, column and row headers, subtotals, grand totals, conditional formats. So that conditional formatting field is one of the more interesting ones here. That allows you to do things like add colored backgrounds, or change the font color, or add data bars dynamically to draw attention to high or low values as a visual indicator, similar to how we used the color saturation option in our bar chart. And then looking at donut chart options, again, it's got its own totally different set of options here. And drilling into some of these, you've got detail labels, where you can change the style and text and font settings, and then a title, which you can align and customize as you see fit. So again, thousands and thousands and thousands of different combinations of formatting rules that you could apply. But the good news is that A, Power BI's default styles and formats are actually pretty thoughtful and polished, more so than with other tools that I've used in the past. And B, it's all extremely user-friendly. So by simply poking around and testing out different combinations and variations, you'll pretty quickly get a grasp on what these options mean and how they all work. So with that, let's head back into Power BI, and we're going to explore some of the formatting options for the bar chart that we've added. Okay, so back on our canvas, you'll note that when I don't have the chart selected, I don't see my options here for either fields or formatting. So make sure that you select the chart that you're interested in, and now you'll see those fields populate. This time we're interested in the second tab of this pane called Format. And as you can see, we've got all of these categories of options, each of which includes sub-options for us to customize the look and feel of this chart. So I'm going to quickly pass through each of these, maybe touch upon a couple of the key concepts, but I'd recommend that you take some time to explore these menus on your own as well. So general, basically this is about height, width, positioning. Typically you won't really touch the general options. Y-axis has a bunch of options here. So this is everything related to the Y-axis of our chart. I'm going to drag it closer just so that it's side by side. So you can turn the entire axis on and off first and foremost. And when you turn it off, obviously those options are now inactive. But let's keep the Y-axis because I want to see those titles, those labels for each subcategory. You can change it from the left side to the right. You can change the color, the text size, even the font family. And then if we expand this out a bit so we can read, minimum category width, literally just give it a shot and see what happens. Just changes the actual width, in this case almost like the height of each bar. Maximum size changes kind of the length of each bar. And then inner padding is if you don't want that blank space between bars, you can eliminate that entirely. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And then the last option here on the Y-axis is the title. So an axis title assigned to your Y. Keep that off. So let's say we've made some changes and now we've changed our mind and we actually don't like the updates we made. Every one of these menus has a yellow revert to default option on the bottom, and when you click, it takes me right back to where I started. So really helpful feature there. So there's our y-axis options. Very similar tools for the x-axis. So now I'm dealing with this horizontal axis down at the bottom. Some certain chart types will have different scales. In this case, it's just linear. That's the only option. Start and end will default to auto, but these basically say, do you want to customize the minimum and maximum values along that axis? So you could say, sure, instead of 10,000, let's have it go all the way to 30,000. And it essentially shrinks these bars down because my max is now 3 times larger. You can simply delete that to go back to auto. And again, we've got color, text, font, display the units in different ways, thousands, millions, decimal places, turn the x-axis title on and off, turn the grid lines on and off, change the grid line style. In this case, maybe we go with dashed and change them a little bit darker, like so. And those are our x-axis options. Now, data colors, you can see because we have a color saturation applied here, it gives us the option to customize this gradient that we're looking at here. Diverging basically just adds a third center point. You can see how it makes the middle values kind of this light, almost white color. We could customize this if we choose and say, let's make the minimum red, center maybe yellow, and the maximum this kind of greenish blue, almost like a rainbow. And then say, okay, never mind, we don't want that. Let's revert to default. And you're back to where you started. Data labels, this might be helpful here. So you can activate the labels and you'll see them populate here in your chart. Let's change the color to make them a little bit lighter. Let's go one more dark than that. There we go. And then those same number tools, display units, decimal places. You can position them inside of the bars, outside, automatic, change how they react to overflow when the chart's resized, and then change the text size, font, and background will basically just put a little bar behind it. So I think this is good. They're light, they're very subtle, but they're there if you need them. Let's go one size up to 9. And those are the data label options there. Plot area, not much to do here. You can add an image behind the chart. Since there's nothing behind it, transparency is not going to do anything. Chart title, this is one that I do want to update here because it defaults, auto-populates based on the fields you've dragged in. So right now the title is kind of awkward. It's total orders, total revenue, and total profit by subcategory name. So let's simplify that a little bit because we're really just focusing on total orders by subcategory. There we go. And there you go. It's updated the title. And what I'd like to do, you can add a background and a font color. So I'm going to add kind of a darker gray and a light font color. Kind of make that title pop a little bit. I'm going to align the title in the center and let's make it bigger to a size 12. And again, you can change font family. You can follow along exactly how I'm doing this, or you can format using your own style. Totally up to you. So those are the title changes that I'd like to make. Background, you can turn on or off. Just sets basically a background color like so, and a level of transparency. In this case, I don't want the background. Lock aspect ratio. This just says when you resize the chart, do you want to keep the exact proportions? So this fixes the proportions. When that's off, now you can kind of resize however you want. And then our last option here is the border, on or off. That one's a simple one. So let's keep the border off unless you choose to keep it. Totally up to you. So that was a lot of options, a lot of formatting tools, but we've made a couple tweaks here. We've added data labels. We tweaked our X grid lines, made them dashed, and then updated our title here as well. So again, you'll come across some other formatting options when you start dealing with other types of visuals, but for the most part, they're as simple as those ones that we just walked through. So there you have it, chart formatting options.